Scotland News.
And you're listening to Newsdrive tonight with Laura Maxwell. Let's go straight to our top story. And a flight carrying 200 British people has been given permission to fly home from the Chinese city of Wuhan, which is at the centre of the coronavirus outbreak. The death toll has risen to at least 170 people in China, with more than 7,000 cases confirmed. Well, before we came on air, I spoke to Kerry Allen, who's our China media analyst at BBC Monitoring, and I began by asking her about the British citizens who are due to be flown home tonight.
There's been very limited information that's actually been coming out about when this flight is actually going to take place. So, I just know yesterday in the evening there were discussions being had here about if we can find anything in Chinese media whatsoever, just from people who might be commenting on it. So it's all being kept very quiet because Wuhan and other cities in Hubei province are in lockdown. So there are huge restrictions on people leaving or entering.
And I suppose if Chinese citizens were to know too much about citizens from other countries leaving, would that cause problems?
I'd say yes and no, because there have been cases at the moment, praised particularly for one flight that has been sending people into Wuhan who just want to return to see their families. There is a certain amount of compassion for companies and flights, trains. If the arrangements are made to get people in safely, then there is a lot of praise. But at the same time, it then means that anybody who's even passing through Hubei province needs to then spend I believe it's 2 weeks in quarantine, self-quarantine. So I know that's the case, for example, with some of our correspondents, Steve McDonnell. He went to Hubei recently, and now he's got to spend the next 2 weeks and his producer in his home in Beijing.
And do we know how other nations are dealing with their citizens who are in Wuhan? Have many other nations managed to get their citizens out?
We don't know much about that, but there's definitely been a lot of praise for the way that other countries have been working closely with China. I mean, not only through the World Health Organization, so sending specialist teams into Hubei province to help out, try and find a cure for this coronavirus and try and understand more about it. But also a number of other countries have been donating medical supplies as well. So these include South Korea, Japan, the US, Singapore. A lot of praise for efforts being stepped up, but also a lot of understanding. Say, for example, when BA suspended its flights to China earlier this week, there was a lot of understanding about the UK doing this because, as China sees it, if restrictions are being put in place, this is not a bad thing. It's that the whole world is working together to try and get this under control.
Is that unprecedented in terms of the amount of openness and honesty and liaison that's being done with the Chinese authorities?
It does feel that way, yes. I mean, for the World Health Organization yesterday to say in a statement that it was really pleased that China was being so transparent. And as I'm a China media analyst, I'm looking at Chinese media every day, and I've been quite surprised about the level of transparency being given. People are opening their social media feeds or looking at newspapers, and they're seeing daily updates by region, the number of cases that are confirmed, the number of deaths. They're seeing interactive maps, for example, showing where cases are by region. Even there have been live streams, for example, by some media trying to show just how people are dealing with this in Hubei particularly, which is in lockdown. But a lot of media coverage and not as much censorship as China traditionally gives to something like this.
Yeah, because I was just aware of the fact that you see the formal Chinese media pictures of how doctors are dealing with things very efficiently, and yet we are starting to get snippets of footage taken on people's phones.
Yeah, I mean, normally I think back to last year when I was looking at the Hong Kong protests, there was a lot of censorship in action, and but there's just nationwide concern and a call for so much transparency that not a lot is being censored, in my opinion. So, I mean, looking at particularly at Hubei province today posts that I've been seeing, I've seen people running daily blogs on how they're getting by, particularly if they're in a city that's in lockdown. So they've been sharing pictures, for example, of the food they've got left in their fridge, really openly discussing the conversations they're having about couriers bringing them products and saying that, going into great detail, whereas the government might normally unite and have a shared message of positivity. It doesn't want to create fear for its 1.4 billion population. But on the contrary, people are really getting the personal stories. And yeah, I do feel that's quite unprecedented.
Kerry Allen there, who's a China media analyst.